Alison Thewlis.
Much, Mr Speaker. Well, both Labour and the Tories, they're Brexiteer parties now, a Brexit that Scotland didn't vote for and wants nothing of. But this year, the Scottish Government have faced over a 5% real terms cut in resource funding compared to last year's budget, and the spending review took place when inflation was only at 3.1%. It has now tripled and continues to rise. This increase will impact on Scotland's recovery from the pandemic and place severe pressures on public services and public sector wages. Will the Chancellor increase funding to devolved governments in recognition of this record inflation he presides over?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm so pleased to have a chance to have Treasurer rules for the first time after we've now seen the Scottish Government spending review after a couple of weeks ago. And it was interesting reading through that, because what's clear, that in spite of the largest increase in public spending in the United Kingdom for some decades, record increases in public spending, the Scottish Government are now imposing austerity. Austerity in local government, in education, in justice, in environment, all budgets that are growing slower than inflation, not happening elsewhere in the United Kingdom, Mr Speaker. The health budget, the people's #1 priority, now in England growing 2 or 3 times faster than it is in Scotland. They're not passing on the income tax cut. And you might ask, Mr Speaker, why is this? Why are these choices being made? It is because what's happening in Scotland, the welfare budget is being increased by 50%, Mr Speaker. That's why.
Alison Thewlis.
The Chancellor knows fine well that the Scottish Parliament, as all the other devolved administrations as well, operate on a fixed budget. They do not have the levers that he has to increase budgets, and we operate on that incredibly well. We have a balanced budget in Scotland every year, which says a lot more than his. Mr Speaker, inflation is a global problem, but individual governments can make it easier for people to make ends meet. Ireland, for example, has cut public transport fares to allow people to save money on ticket and petrol prices, while these have soared under his administration. This is an independent country using its powers to ease the burden on commuters. The Scottish Government has already made bus travel free for under-22s, but we are at the limits of what we can do because of that fixed budget and because of those real-term cuts to the block grant. So if the Chancellor is not going to provide more money to the Scottish Government, will he give us the full powers to do this?
Mr Speaker, we all have to operate with fixed budgets. That's news to the Honourable Lady. But what we do know is there's been record bond settlements for Scotland, £4.5 billion a year. But what we do know, beneath that, is the choices that governments make. And on our side of the House, Mr Speaker, we choose to support the NHS. We choose to support public services. In Scotland, they're choosing to impose austerity on public services. That is the difference between us and the SNP.